Hey guys, and welcome to an epic showdown between two mighty warriors of legend. On the left hand side, leading the forces of the edgy elves, the Dark Elves, is the mighty Storm Runner of Clan DBD, up against Frosty Demise and the legions of undeadly ghouls in the form of the Tomb Kings. Should be a good fun one, and I'm a big fan of this rather interesting Dark Elf build, so we're going to delve straight into this one. Dark Elves in general are kind of a shadow of their former selves, but a few notable players, Ice Power, Stormrunner and so forth, are showing they have life in them yet, and the front line of Bleak Swords is going to be trying to take the fight to the enemy as quickly as possible. In the secondary line, we do have a couple units of Dark Shards with shields, going to be able to trade very effectively up against enemy skirmishers, as well as enemy range because of those thick, large shields. We also have double Reaper Bolt Thrower in the back. These guys are a brilliant counter to your Shopti. They're incredibly accurate and do big burst damage throughout. And if your opponent hasn't brought them, simply switch them onto any other large target or go into the spread shot and really tear apart their infantry corps. In the backbones, we have two units of Cold One Knights as well as two Dark Riders who are going to be protected by them. Reaper Bolt Throwers always incredibly good, or Repeater Bolt Throwers I should say. And we have some elite bad to the bones halberd infantry in the form of the Black Guard of Naggarond. Two units of these bad boys, and elite infantry in general, I've spoken about it a lot before in Total War Warhammer, can suffer. Casket of Souls, for example, your Shopsy can be very good up against such units. However, the Black Guard of Naggarond, they're literally good against every single unit in the Tomb King roster. They beat all the infantry and they do very good up against all the large constructs. So if you can take out the Ushopti and the Caskets, they're going to be absolutely insane. And that's what the Reaper Bolt Throwers are for, as well as a Supreme Sorceress of Fire up in the skies, Flame of Sword of Rune, Fireball and Burning Head. Should be able to pick apart any of those long-range siege pieces. For the forces of the Tomb Kings, the main battle line is going to be cheap, cheerful, and summoned to be here skeleton warriors, dotted all the way along, as well as some skeleton spearmen in the black, including the King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion. We have W Shopti to apply a bit of long-range pressure, certainly trying to make the Dark Elves come to them. Maybe wasn't expecting the double bolt thrower. We also have two Tomb Scorpions currently vibing together over here on the left-hand flank. Tomb Scorpions, some of the coolest models by far. The runes painted on them, it's just, it's so ferocious. Imagine if this was snipping its little claws and coming at you. I'd certainly be running the other direction. We also have the Eyes of the Desert, Regiment of Renowned Sneaky Snakes, fantastic anti-large stalk unit. Leading the force is Arkan the Black with a humble Spirit Leech as well as all his abilities because they are very, very powerful. And up in the skies we have Carrion and a Tomb Prince who shall be working as a loyal bodyguard for Arkan. Arkan, not a terrible melee combatant, but certainly doesn't want to go up against any of the kind of hard-hitting characters, so always good to have him with a bit of a bodyguard. Poor Reaper Bolt Thrower has been hit by an overcast Spirit Leech, which does increase the range, so it has been struck, and taking a bit of damage from the Shopti, but at the same time, Fireball support and consistent focus fire from the Dark Elves is whittling down this unit of the Shopti Great Bows really quickly, and kind of making the Tomb Kings forcefully advance onto the Dark Elves. Is exactly what the Dark Elves want, so the Black Guard can get engaged in combat without worrying too much about being shot. Carry on going for a Leroy Jenkins suicide charge, as they are known to do, going after the Bolt Thrower crew. Definitely look for them to hop onto this left one because they probably better break from actually force them off the battle. But here instead, it looks like the Black Guard as well as double Cold One Knights are just going to ramrod straight into those Carrion, destroying them in a matter of heartbeats. Bleak Swords do lead the charge up against the Skeletons, and it is going to be a pretty flimsy battle in the front line. Bleak Swords won't do too terrible here, but of course they are far further away from their battle lines than the Tomb Kings. It is to buy time for those range options from the forces of the Dark Elves to really start racking up value in the form of the Dark Shards and the Bolt Throwers, so there's certainly no bad thing about kind of sacrificing the Bleak Swords in the front line, and they're doing a good job clearing out a lot of the chaff, just wherever the Tomb Scorpions strike or Arkan, the Dark Elves do suffer, and a few of their units are already terrified and running for the hills. In the back lines, that one unit of Ushopti is pretty much spent at this point, -5 leadership and dropping rapidly, so only the one more pressure to kind of rein in from afar. Tomb Kings bust through that central formation. Sneaky Snakes, Tomb Prince, as well as Arkan leading the charge onto the Dark Shards, which is very scary stuff for the Dark Elves. A lot of their punch is in these ranged units, and they continue to rain fire down, trying to focus the Tomb Scorpions. Always good to get as many units as possible, hitting one target to really try and drag down with some burst damage. Supreme Sorceress of Fire is floating above the battle line as the Black Guard of Naggarond do rush to try and breach the gap. Both forces committing, one on the right hand side to hold back the chaff, and the other one into the thick of the action. charging halberds swinging into glorious hand-to-hand combat. And as I said before, they're going to be good up against everything in the Tomb King's roster, particularly these Eyes of the Desert and the characters. They should be able to drag them down pretty quickly. A big fat flaming sword of rune is going to go down as well, increasing their prowess even more as the murderous prowess kicks off at the same time. The Cold One Knights doing a decent job surrounding the Tomb Scorpions, trying to drag them down. It looks like one is already gone, actually, and the second one is now the focus of attention of all those Dark Shards. And the Cold One Knights, though, getting a little bit pinned. There are some new Shopti here who have been summoned, going to be able to cleave the Cold Ones asunder. Although, of course, the Shopti are anti-infantry, still do big damage across, whatever they're going to hit. Dark Riders are wheeling about face, trying to focus down the Tomb Scorpions. It looks like the one actually did survive on the left, was simply going for a little walk in the forest. But unfortunately for him, he has now got no way of catching these Dark Riders and takes huge burst damage straight out the gate from them, as Dark Shards also start to reload their crossbows. And the big central fight is just an absolute mess. Cold One Knights slowly being dragged down as the Tomb Scorpion scuttles towards it. Blackguard Naggarond, though, managed to finish off the Tomb Prince, of course, is on his horse, and therefore is weak to their bonus versus large. The back lines, it looks like some of the reserve spearmen are slowly being pushed up. One of them was left back to protect the great bows, which is a good idea as well. As the Shopti, they're pretty fast, we don't want them pushed away. Bleak Swords and Blackguard and Naggarond tearing their way through the King Nakesh's Scorpion Legion, with their black shields as well being raised high in defiance of the Dark Elves. The Supreme Sorceress does get hit by a Spirit Leech, but decides to float away from the engagement for now. And the big old fat mosh pit is just an absolute mess. Bleak Sword slowly going down, as well as Cold One Knights, but they're all sacrificial lambs to the slaughter to buy time for the Dark Shards and Dark Riders, who continue to pour in fire. One Tomb Scorpion down, the other one falling rapidly. Minus 36 leadership, not having a good day whatsoever. Arkan's pretty healthy at the moment, though, so is the Eyes of the Desert. Only 7 models left on them, and the Blackguard and Naggarond are once again surrounded, but they will not mind this whatsoever. Twirling their halberds round. I wish I had the strength to do this. These guys must be buff as hell, and they're going to be, easily carving their way through the bones, chucking skulls all over the place, and cackling in their Dark Elf malice. More Eyes of the Desert, though, do continue to push through, shutting down both the Dark Shards and the Reaper Boltthrower crew, actually engaging in hand-to-hand combat, just to try and buy some time for the Dark Shards to escape. Supreme Sorceress has been hit by a Spirit Leech. Shopti should be able to fire her down now. Looks like that's just what they're doing. Good play here by Stormrunner. Going to be pulling her away out of the range of fire and to safety. She doesn't need to get close to the action to have an effect on the battlefield whatsoever. Blackguard continue to pull their way through the Spearmen. Some Cold One Knights have unfortunately rampaged into the Spears. Not a good job by them, but at the same time, the leadership is rather low on the Spearmen. They should be going down pretty soon. And Cold One Knights do have 90 armor, which isn't too shabby whatsoever. Big Fat Fireball once again is going to come down, hitting the sneaky snakes, doing some good damage to them. They are crumbling to dust at the moment and should be going down in just a few seconds. Dark Elves have finally managed to secure their back line, but there's not much left of it. Both the Dark Shards have taken huge damage. Bolt throws are offline. Luckily, we do have the tunes of Dark Riders continuing to pour in fire. At this point, the balance power is very heavily in the Dark Elf favour. But with your Shopti on the field, the bane of my Total War Warhammer existence, never count out the Tomb Kings. These guys doing pretty good so far, up to 870 damage value, 44 kills. Unleashing volley after volley into the Blackguard would be a good idea. Big Fat Fireball is going to come down, but unfortunately clips the hill. The rather sneaky and scheming Arkan does bob, dodge, and weave his way to freedom. Bleak Sword slowly clearing their way through some skeleton spin, although they are heavily outnumbered at this point. Blackguard and Naggarond are having a pretty decent display, though. 162 kills, really slaughtering King Nakesh's Scorpion Legion without taking too much damage back whatsoever. And in the far side, the other unit of Blackguard is just untouched, still 69 models and 200 kills. Absolute wild stuff. Dark Riders are now unleashing hell upon the Shopti. This is for every Dark Elf you have slaughtered, they scream, and they're doing pretty decent damage. Of course, the Shopti are nearly out of ammunition at this point, but the Supreme Sorceress is just floating up top, waving the middle finger and insulting the Shopti before flying away once more as they turn to shoot at her. Actually clipping her with a few shots, and she's getting rather low on health, but she's going to be diving in with the support of the Bleak Sword. Should be able to overwhelm the Shopti with great bows down here. Arkan has gone in for a last-ditch challenge onto the Blackguard and Naggarond. Did some pretty decent work to them, actually, now that they are surrounded, and a fat burning head's going to come through. Oh no! It's going to do massive friendly fire damage and glorious damage as well. I think at this point the Dark Elves know they've won, so they kind of slaughter half their own unit of Blackguard, but also clear out a ton of the chaff, as the second unit of Blackguard does emerge as well to support their brothers. And the Ark and the Black is doing pretty decent work at this point. Supreme Sorceress is very beat up, but the Shopsi have gone down, and it is Arkan versus the world. In the trees, we even have more Bleak Swords who can come back to the fray. Big Fireball goes in once again, friendly fire on the Blackguard, doing some lovely damage to them. And it looks like we do have that rather pesky curse coming down. which always does do some nice damage. If you have a little scroll over here, I believe it will pop up to tell. Yeah, the curse. Basically, it's like a big overcast flock of doom coming down on all these people. They're also poisoned and have the Flaming Sword of Rune on them, though, to buff their stats even more. 50 melee defense, 38 melee attack. I mean, obviously, they are weakened currently by the poison, but still pretty decent stats throughout. It's going to be doing some good work. In come the Dark Rise for hand-to-hand combat to try and finish off the Tomb King Resolve. This unit is going down. The summoned one is pretty much spent as well. Supreme Sorceress is going to be flying over, hunting down Archon, looking for that bony booty. Maybe dropping some fireballs down as well if she can still. If she's got any magic left. Looks like Arcane Conduit has been popped to try and heal up that magic. Dark Rise are just chilling at the moment. A lot of Dark Elf units could kind of be used to come over here and fight the main fight. But it looks like the battle is over. Archon going for a suicidal charge onto the Dark Shards. In comes the Supreme Sorceress, who has been hit by a Spirit Leech. She's got just about enough health so that she should be able to survive. So unfortunately, Archon can't even get his last bit of revenge there. Pretty damn awesome game, really showing the power of the Blackguard of Naggarond. Two absolutely rocks in the Dark Elf build. If you can take out the Caskets and Ushopti, they are absolute menaces in the night. Same thing goes for Phoenix Guard, Temple Guard, any such elite unit which has enough about it to really deal very well up against Tomb Guard will be fantastic, because a lot of the other harder hitting units from the Tomb Kings do come in the form of gigantic constructs. Very well played to Stormrunner and Frosty Demise. We will get to the damage value and all that good stuff in just a second, but if you did enjoy, feel free to leave the video a big old thumbs up. It helps support the channel and pushes it out to more people. Feel free to subscribe as well if you are new here or haven't yet done so. We do drop videos every single day, as well as a couple of streams. We're actually going to be streaming today some tournament games and then some quick battles when I get kicked out of the tournament, most likely. So yeah, awesome stuff. And down below in the description, there is a link to my Discord where you can submit replays, get involved in events, weekly events we host as well for the channel, where I'll say, get as much damage value as you can with a Rune Lord. That is this week's one, and then whoever wins such challenges do get cast up on the channel, which is really awesome. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there is a link to my Patreon and other such links down below. Well played to these two champs, Frosty Demise and Stormrunner, doing some really glorious work. Supreme Sorceress of Fire, 1.2k damage value, and a load of friendly fire to boot. But, she did a good job. She's very cheap, she stays up in the sky, she's really hard to snipe out because of her mobility. Fireballs, burning heads, always very good up against the Tomb Kings, plus those Flaming Swords of Rune were really nice synergy, I should say, with the Blackguard Naggarond. Bleak Swords were there pretty much to die and hold back the enemy line as long as possible. Pretty big kills across the board, rather low damage value, but their idea is to cut down as much chaff as possible, allowing then the skirmish forces and elite forces of the Dark Elves to pick apart the tough constructs left behind by the Tomb Kings. Both the units of Blackguard and Naggarond performed really well. This unit's slightly worse, getting just under 1,000 damage value, still 212 kills, and they would have been about 3/4 health if they didn't take all that friendly fire at the end. The other unit, though, performing absolutely outstandingly. 246 kills, nearly 20,000 damage dealt, 2,385 damage value, being in the thick of the middle of the action pretty much the entirety of the game and barely taking a scratch. Dragging down that Tomb Prince, dragging down the snakes, helping deal with the Tomb Scorpions, and just clearing out enemy after enemy. They could do this all day. As for the Dark Shards, they did get a little overwhelmed. Still getting some okay value, 500 here and 500 on the other one, nothing too amazing. Cold One Knights as well were used a little sacrificial in the middle to allow the other range elements to survive a little while longer. 740 damage value here, 720, and the Dark Rise Repeater Crossbows, 530, 1000, being pivotal in taking out those Tomb Scorpions who can really kind of mess up a lot of enemy infantry. Both the bolt throws did their job, only 300 damage value on this one, 900 on the other one, however, they distract the Ushopti, they stop them from shooting those Blackguard, and also are a good counter to the Casket if it was indeed picked. As for Frosty Demise, really well played by him despite the loss. Archon the Black performed really well. 2,543 damage value, nearly 9k damage dealt. A real solid linchpin to this build to kind of keep it going and active. Unfortunately, the Tomb Prince found himself surrounded by the Blackguard, which is basically no one wants to find themselves there, as you will get dragged down by those cleaving strikes. The Undeadly Hordes, of course, not going to be getting much damage value. That's not what they're here for. They're just kind of to buffer the lines and allow the Ushopti and the Tomb Scorpions to really deal the damage, which they certainly did. If we look at the Tomb Scorpions, actually, They did pretty terrible. I thought they did pretty good because they were in the action for a lot of time, but they were basically just fighting bleak swords the entire time whilst being shot. Only 230 and 350 damage value. Really pitiful stuff by them. The shop tier as well. One unit, only 110 damage value. Getting sniped out early on. The other one performing far better. 1,129. Sneaky Snakes, 752. So a lot of his key units, unfortunately, from Frosty Demise, apart from Arkan, really didn't pay for themselves. Mainly due, though, to the good play of Stormrunner. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.